Land, we acknowledge with gratitude that Minnedosa is on the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples and the Métis Nation. So moving right into it, adoption of the agenda, moved by Councillor Dowsett, second by Councillor Taylor. Be it resolved that the May 13th, 2025 agenda be hereby adopted. Questions or comments on the agenda? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of minutes. So moved by Councillor Marks, second by Councillor Blade. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of April 22nd, 2025 be hereby adopted, all statutory requirements having been fulfilled. Questions or comments on the minutes?
Should we acknowledge that there was a delegation within the in-camera? Well, I kind of looked at it and. No?
I can't count that.
It was in camera, so I think it should stay the way it is.
Well, I think it was listed in the agenda. Of the delegation.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on. New delegations, public hearing bylaw. Procedural bylaw, we have a resolution there moved by Councillor Dowsett, second by Councillor Blade. Whereas the procedure bylaw 2616 amendment had been given first and second reading on April 22nd, 2025. Therefore, procedural bylaw 2616 amendment be read a third and final time in accordance with section 137 of the Municipal Act. Any questions or comments on that bylaw?
I just shared a note and Danielle's answered the question that
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Anybody else? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Resolution to accept the correspondence. Moved by Councillor Dowsett, second by Councillor Taylor. That the following correspondence be received: Minnedosa Lions Walk for Dog Guide and letter from Karen and Steve Burton. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I think we deal with those later on, right?
Yes.
Unless you change the. Okay, old business then. We have the motion to bring back resolution 2025-084. The financial plan, so moved by Councillor Marks, second by Councillor Taylor. Whereas Councillor Robert Marks had given written notice of motion for the April 22nd, 2025 regular meeting of council. And whereas the notice requested that the 2025 financial plan resolution number 2025-084 be brought back to the table for discussion and possible amendment using the unproven unaudited net operating surplus from 2024. And whereas the CAO had provided a recommendation advising that the unaudited unproven net operating surplus not be applied to operating for any other 2025 budgeted items until the finalized 2024 approved audit had been completed. Therefore, be it resolved that 2025 financial plan resolution number 2025-084 be brought back to the table. Questions or comments? And I believe
I was gonna say, can we have Danielle speak on
yes.
Yes.
before we vote on this one?
Okay, so I have some information here with regards to the financial plan. Should council want to reconsider the plan? There is an option, since we have sold more lots than anticipated since the original plan was approved. The sales for those lots can be added in as sales of good and to revenue to offset the mill rate. which according to the borrowing bylaw, which Councillor Marks brought to my attention, all revenues from lot sales are to go towards offsetting the mill rate, whether they're applied to a reserve or we apply them how we're applying them now. So my recommendation is we add 4 additional lot sales to revenue. So that gives us 5 total this year. That would increase the revenue by $168,000. So our total increase, municipal tax increase with assessment, everything would be 5.7%.
Councillor Darcy.
Now, should that be paid down on our debt that we borrowed?
That's not what it reads in the bylaw. The bylaw sets out how the lot sales are supposed to be used.
Yeah, I have Councillor Blay and then Councillor Marks.
That's exactly what we have discussed in regards to if we had a debenture, that money now, whether or not we did the proper paperwork or did the proper change something or other, I believe then we have to look at doing that now. I mean, but that was always intended to pay down the debenture for the building of it, and that's what we told the delegation. You being one of the delegations when you were here, we told them that that was going to be self-sufficient. It was going to be able to pay down that debenture just from the sale of the lots, and we were always gonna keep the sale of the lots the same as what the debenture was. That's what the belief was, that we weren't going to try and Shanghai that money. The money that we were looking for was gonna be the taxes that we collected from these pieces of property that now are going to be built there at a rate of 5,000 or 6,000. Now, irregardless whether that's what it reads right now, I'm saying we continue to stick to what we had said we were going to do.
Councillor Marks.
Unfortunately, and if you read the bylaw. Well,
Yeah, and that's fine, if that's what it says.
Here's the problem, if we could pay down the debt, I would be all for it, but we can't. The debenture is 20 payments annually, period.
That was another question, I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, that's the deal that we made.
Councillor Blay.
That was a question that was asked of our CEO of the day at that time. Okay?
No,
Of the day, or at that time, whether or not we could do that, and we were going to be able to do that, and that was a yes on his part, that that's what we can do. Maybe he wasn't informed then, but that was the question that was asked, and that was the question that how it was answered.
Councillor Taylor.
I agree with you 100%, Mark, but when he answered that question, he didn't tell us, because when we found out that we could not put that money from the sale of those lots on the debenture, because like you said, how the bylaw was written, because the CEO that was here before said that could not be done like that. It could not be done that way, and because I asked that question, if it could be put on the debenture, why couldn't it?
No, Councillor. Okay, no, good enough. Councillor Marks and Councillor Landry.
So basically, the borrowing that we took with Sunrise is based on the provincial agreement, which was the best rate we could get, and that was a fixed rate, 20 years, no paying down the debt as you go. There's no balloon payments, there's nothing. We're stuck with, it's just like our water plant borrowing, it's the same with the other one, with MREC. MREC is the same way, we can't pay down MREC if we wanted to. All we can do is just take that, we have the option of basically cutting off the mill rates for that year, or we have the option of putting the money in a reserve and basically putting a lower interest rate than what we would be.
Yeah, Councillor Landry, then Councillor Darcy.
Is an amendment possible to that borrowing bylaw to allow us in the future to put money towards it?
Do the same, that's, we'll have to go back to the municipal board, public hearing.
And the bank.
And the
And the bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Councillor Darcy.
Now, we understand the 20 payments, right? But where's that money coming from? Where's that money coming from, the 20 big,
So we have a payment already this year.
right? So that's,
Coming
yes,
from mill rate, so we have to pay it,
that doesn't say that in the Bible.
huh?
That
Would
doesn't
you
say-
like me to read it?
It's slow.
So I don't know what was told or before I came here, but I do know what was said since I've been here, and that's when we did the borrowing bylaw. And I know at the time, it was exactly, I remember it being explained the way it is, that obviously, any payments we make come out of basically our taxes anyway, right? And if we use this money to keep our taxes lower, it's like buying down the interest, because you would be putting money on like, you do that maybe on a personal loan, but we can't do that here. We're governed by the municipal law. So I've got Council Landry, then Council.
How much is the annual debenture payment for that? Ballpark.
So it,
I mean,
2025, it's $110,698 plus a principal of $65,526.
So $175,000.
$176,225.49.
So it's essentially
Same
fair to
amount
say,
of-
if we're putting $168,000 on it, we're just putting it to this year's payment,
Yes,
so.
Council Blair, you had your hand.
And I guess, and I'm believing what you're saying, I'm not doubting that part of it, Robert. There's too many marks in here.
just one.
But I mean, if we turn around and like, and I know it doesn't, it's not gonna be the same, so it's gonna be a goofy type of thing, but. If I wanted to pay down on my mortgage, I could. If I wanted to pay down on a personal loan, I could. If the bank wants to take the money for a debenture, they could too. It's just that we have tied our own hands by doing something here. Because whatever the bylaw is or the bylaw reads is done by us.
The borrowing is done by
Problem.
credit union.
Yeah.
And based on how the province does it, that's why we thought the way we did.
I'm sorry, Robert, please, one more time.
What you're saying is incorrect.
Okay,
The borrowing agreement that we have with Sunrise is modeled after the provincial agreement, which basically is 20 payment. There's no paying it down ahead of time or that's.
We're stuck with what we.
so that's just, so it's just, the province has made it so it tied our hands, the province has made this up, this is a bylaw from the province?
More or less,
Credit
yeah.
union tied it to the provincial. So
Can
if
we ask the credit union to not do that? Can we change that? Can we go to the like, I mean, everything is open for,
It's open to negotiation.
yeah. Like,
The
problem is,
they
but we
want
got-
money.
You have a contract.
We got the interest rate we got because of doing it this way. If you do it a different way, I guarantee you the interest is going up.
Initially, the credit union offered us, what was it, 5?
But yeah,
They hired, we brought it down by showing them what the provincial rate was.
that we inquired and
Yes.
requested.
That's how we got the rate we did.
So I'm sure we could ask, but I'm sure they would.
Well, I don't think.
They would, if they did, they would probably say you're paying more interest, but that's how we got the interest rate we got by doing this type of a deal.
So, the question, sorry.
Go ahead, Frank, go first.
The question I'm gonna ask, and can say, like, if tomorrow you win $25 million and you want to go make a donation to the town. So you can't make a donation to the town to pay down that, you have to make a donation as town so they can.
They could put it in trust and make the payments out of it every year.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's all I'm saying, because, you know, but like I asked that question at the very first day, when we sold 20 lots, Mark, I was sitting right there, if that would go down in on our debenture, and we were told, no. It could
I was
go
told
that,
yes.
well.
Council Landry.
Never heard of it.
So by applying the $168,000 to this year's revenue, we're reducing the proposed tax rate to 5.7% from, what was the before number?
8.9% is what we originally, council originally
Does
passed.
that seem right? I thought the demand, the difference in the demand was 357. Or something like that. The number that you came up with was in the email.
10.7,
Huh?
sorry, 10.7?
9.7.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's going from 9.7 to 5.7.
5.7.
And then how it would apply to basically residential probably worked out to adjust it by 4.1.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the resolution we're on right now, just to kind of bring everybody back.
Yeah.
So
Please.
this is just to bring the motion back. The next one we'd be voting on
Yes,
is the adoption of taking
That's
the
right.
168.
so
Just so I'm understanding myself
Yeah.
correctly and trying to.
So that's the discussion now, but the actual motion is if you vote in favor of it, we're bringing back the budget,
Yes,
the resolution to.
Right, but that opens up another whole can of worms, so.
if that resolution comes back on the table, yes, it is open for discussion of anything.
So then,
It is,
So-
not just. this
so,
topic.
and the other thing is, so our payment is $160,000. If we use the $160,000, we're just basically borrowing from Peter to pay Paul sort of thing here. It's not really, we're solving anything here, we're just
Keeping the
feeling it
tax
from
rate
one,
lower,
one hand to the other here.
but bringing the mill rate down.
We're bringing the mill rate down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but that still doesn't solve some of the problems that we've got that are ongoing, and I guess I'd like to read something that was sent to me here by Counselor Butler. And should there be a discussion regarding the budget, could you please make my views known? If I'm allowed to do this?
Yep.
It would be nice to keep the tax increase at a low level, which is what we all agree. That's what we've been doing for years. But unfortunately, that has been done for a number of years. Each time we decide to keep the increase at inflation or slightly above, it does not give the town the funds to address many of the areas that need funding. Should members of the council want to keep the increase lower, can they provide what long-term goals are for funding? Or are we just going to pass the problem on to the next council, which has been the case for many years? We must address the following, and if we do not have a plan to finance these projects, let's inform the public. So let's keep them informed of what we've got that's on the table here. In other words, we have flood mitigation, and the flood mitigation is a problem of $15 million. We have a fire truck that we need to replace every 10 years. We have 2 fire trucks. Every fire truck that's at the end of, we all know, is 20 years old. But so we replace them every 10 years. And we're gonna be needing to use $1 million for a new fire truck coming soon. At $100 to $120,000 a year. Equipment, $230,000 a year. Building reserves, we need $100,000 a year. Cabin area upgrade, we need to solve the water problem to start development for the remaining of the lots. Without solving the water problem, those development of those lots will not happen. The lake sediment is a $2 million project. We're putting in 15,000 each year. That's not gonna cover, that's not even gonna cover any of it. The old arena, $300,000. This has to be done next year. The clay pile at the Emery, that's another 100,000. The roads, pavement, infrastructure, upgrades. Nothing less than $500,000. Pavement for parking on the east side of the Sunrise Center. The utilities, the lagoon upgrades, the water treatment plant upgrades. All these things have got to be done. With the budget you're suggesting, I'd like to know what your plans are for being able to solve those problems. Where is that money coming from? You solve this problem this year, but you don't solve the problem in the long run. If all we're doing is just kicking the can down the road, that's not what we need to be doing. We need to be thinking of all the ratepayers.
So, but just let me bring you back for 1 sec, because all the surplus that we want to put into reserves is still gonna be there under the scenario that Danielle's brought to us.
That's
just wanna
if
clarify.
if we continue.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
But if we
No, I
If
don't.
we're gonna turn around and not do stuff, and we're going to continuously do this and make some people happy, we're not making the right decisions. We're not doing what we're here to do, which is make the correct decisions for the future of the town.
Not arguing that, I just, Councilor Marks, because anyway, you have your.
My perspective is we have to live within our means.
I'm sorry?
We have to live within our means.
Okay, so by living within our means that when we don't have,
Okay,
We don't
Okay.
have.
I think,
let's bring it to a vote.
yeah, I think there's nothing new being said now, we're
No, you're
repeating ourselves.
Yeah.
Are we ready to bring it to a vote? And this is for bringing the budget back. Is what this vote is for.
So we're voting,
Yeah, an affirmative vote brings the budget back, and
A no vote.
non-affirmative will leave it
No.
as is.
no leaves it as is
Yeah.
for the time being.
Can I just ask one more question?
One more, yeah.
Should we vote against this motion? What would the $168,000 go towards, or what would it do?
Next year's budget,
It would go into surplus, into revenue, that's funds we know for sure are revenue from that development, so that would go into general reserve.
Okay.
And it could be put to offset taxes. Mill rate next year, so you so choose, or you can keep it for a couple of years.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll call for the vote on this resolution. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. We have to record this.
Somebody fill their version.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay, fair enough. Okay, thank you. Which will take us into,
Skip that
Sorry?
one. Skip that one.
Skip 10.1.
Yeah,
I was even thinking that myself, so that takes us into,
skip the other then.
So it's all, that's good. No, that's fine.
to the new business, right?
yeah, to Hill,
Yeah.
do the hillside reassembly.
Document of those foundations, okay.
Give me a minute, please.
Okay, hillside development, so moved by Councillor Taylor, second by Councillor. Seconded by Councillor, Landry, sorry. Whereas council had set the price for the hillside development phase 1 and phase 2 residential and multi-unit lots. Excuse me, and whereas there would be no negotiation of lot prices, and whereas Realtor Colton Sprague's had been contracted as the Realtor for the development, therefore be it resolved that the CAO Danielle Carrier be authorized to execute all necessary sale documents adhering to the prices as set out by council. Questions or comments? Council Marks.
So this isn't negotiations reducing below what the list already is.
But I didn't hear that.
Say that again?
We set the price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The price has been set.
There's no negotiation.
There's no negotiation.
That's right. This was requests from legal, just to make sure
Oh, okay.
council. It's written in paper that I am authorized to sign the papers.
Council Taylor.
So, the people that have bought, Danielle, has there been any questions on the price of the lots?
Nothing.
Because, as we talked about last time, I think those lot prices are very, very fair when you go into the number of areas around here, and they're 75 to 90,000, or 99,000 in some areas. I think we maybe did do a little bit of a low estimation on that.
At least they're selling.
Yes, that's
What we
fantastic.
did was we brought the prices of what it cost to put in,
Yeah.
which was the prices of what, the lots are gonna be, so that one pays the other, which was always the thought. That one was gonna cover the other.
It only covers the borrowing, and that's.
Well,
not-
it-
not in-
It was 2 million, bringing in the lot prices comes to $2 million, and
back to the resolution, we're
Yeah.
not asking for a change. We're just wanting to make sure we have the resolution so that there is no negotiation and Danielle can just give her direction. Go ahead.
Does this mean that, the sale of the lots will be done through the office then?
No, she has to sign to make the sale.
Giving me the authority to sign the,
So we're still using a real estate agent?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, yes, this is just for me,
Did
for
cover legal.
legal.
For legal. It's for legal. We can discuss the other.
Okay, if the offer is at the sale price.
Exactly, that'll need to come to
Yeah.
council. I can give them an answer.
Any other questions on this resolution?
Please do.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll do the Minnedosa Lions closure request. Moved by Counselor Dowsett, second by Counselor Marks. Whereas the Minnedosa Lions Walk for Dog Guides and Family Fun Day would be held on June 1st, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. And whereas the Minnedosa Lions had requested use of the side street west of the library for a pop-up market, therefore be it resolved that the request by Minnedosa Lions to host a pop-up market on the west side of the library be approved. Questions or comments on that?
They want to do it on the gravel?
Just set up tents for market.
Well, then after probably conversations and stuff.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Appointment to the Minnedosa Foundation. Excuse me. Resolution here,
First,
my computer blipped. Resolution, so moved by Councilor Landry, second by Councilor Blake. Whereas the Minnedosa Foundation had notified the CEO that there were 2 openings on the board, therefore be it resolved that the foundation nominates Sandra Hall and Shauna Burton to be appointed to the Minnedosa Foundation Board. Questions or comments on that? Councilor Dowsett.
when are we going to go into nominating people to go towards boards? We had talked about doing that process, earlier, that, we'd, not go who knows who instead of putting applications. So when, do we have an idea when we want to move forward on that?
I'd like Councilor Murray to speak.
Councilor Marks.
We did discuss this in general governance, mind it was a limited general governance meeting, neither Ken or Council Landry were in attendance. We are sort of the opinion, and there's, we don't want a whole bunch of policy, but what we do want is council to basically decide at the time when the resolution comes, whether or not we think it's the right decision. And in thoughts of this particular one and the Minnedosa Foundation, the thought was that maybe we should go back to the foundation and ask them whether they have anyone else. Or whether or not we should put it out there.
So, excuse my ignorance, but how did that become on your plate?
Policies go to general government. It was discussed at general government.
Okay, but is not the council that makes that decision?
Well, of course it is.
So my question is, when are we going to put this into action? Or you're saying we're not?
We're saying that this is what general governance thought of it. It doesn't mean that the council has to agree with it.
And I don't think it's the end of it, like you said, there was only 2 people there.
There were only 2 people there.
Discussion.
And agree that are not. But if we're gonna have, it's just like coming for money, if we're gonna have these policies, then we have to start and let the different boards know now this is how it has to be.
And I don't believe again, it would start at general governance, come to council, and
Okay.
this is where we're at as of yet. To give you a timeline, I would, my guess would be a couple of meetings where there's actually,
So within
Committee there.
our next year.
I would think.
Yeah.
Councilor,
I'd like to see you speak to this.
Okay, so during general governance, it was discussed whether a policy was required or not with regards to the procedure. And so there is a loose drafted policy that was provided to general governance. I don't feel a policy is quite needed. What should happen is a organizational bylaw amendment
Okay,
could happen, stating that those committees and boards listed in the bylaw are the ones that council appoint by way of resolution. And then I would be in communications with those boards and committees that going forward, you have to let us know that there is an opening, and then there'll be the whole application process. So that'll still happen. It's just, we're not going by way of policy, gonna go by way
I
of bylaw.
prefer bylaw, so that makes sense, so
Yes.
thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, everybody's good with that?
I just wanted to make one comment here, like, I mean, these two people put their names in, obviously, they're very, to me, they're both be very good at this position. But at one time, when we had people who, wanted to go onto a board, we would have to run around and try to get people from any place in town to try to get somebody to go on the board. So it's just nice that there are volunteers that are taking this, and I agree, maybe by resolution, I think it's a good thing, but maybe hopefully we do for policy.
Bylaw, the policies.
Yeah, but, sorry.
No, but thank you.
Any other questions on the resolution? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Attention to completion of construction. We have a resolution here moved by Councillor Lay, second by Councillor Joseph. Whereas administration has received a request for an extension to clause 26A in their 20-year lease agreement, and whereas the extension request would be to December 31st, 2025. Therefore, be it resolved that the extension requested by Karen and Steve Burton at 11 Marigold Lane to December 31st, 2025 be hereby approved. Questions or comments?
My understanding is that this is it's just to finish off what they're trying to do, and they're just not completed yet. But they have done everything, they're living in it, or they're not living in it, they're
Yeah,
cabining.
they're using
it.
habitating it.
Yes, okay, so it's gone a long ways into being done, I think they're doing it on their own, so it's taking them a little bit more time.
The explanation, I read, I'd say that it looks like they're like 90%.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have no problem with that. Okay, go.
Well, I guess, all the way to December 31st, or do we want to sort of end of the summer? Sort of, why the topping season stuff?
That's what they've asked for.
They requested December 31st.
I know, I'm just, do we want, we're okay with December 31st?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Well, yeah, you driven by there?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not ugly.
Okay, then extension to completion of construction Creerar Bay. So resolution there moved by Councillor Lay, second by Councillor Marks. Whereas the property owner had submitted a letter to the CEO requesting an extension to June 30th, 2026. Therefore, be it resolved that the extension request be approved as requested. Questions or comments? Councillor Landers.
So I feel if we are to vote in the affirmative on this one, that we would be doing ourselves a disservice. This person, whoever it is that purchased these lots, this one here has absolutely nothing done. As far as I'm aware, they're actually past it. There's not a stake in the ground, a foundation, a driveway, nothing. We are at a loss of commercial lots for people who have businesses in town. And I feel like these individuals should have shown some progress instead of, we haven't started, now our deadline's coming up. I'm sympathetic to their reasoning, don't get me wrong. But in this situation, I am against this, especially the part about wanting the fine to be waived. that is an absolute no-go for me. They've put little to no effort in it, and now they're asking us to waive the fine. If we go in the affirmative on this resolution, in my opinion, I feel like we're kind of opening ourselves up to, oh, well, any deadline that they put, any fine that they put, we can just send a letter to council and yeah, they'll just go with it. We were setting a bad precedent if we vote for it.
Good, your hand up.
I was basically gonna say what Mark just said, you know, or, and to add, it's either 500 or not coming back to us. Is the way I see it. We've had a lot of these lots come back to us.
Any, yes, Councilor Fair.
I agree, $500 is the penalty if they want to continue on, but I'm having a problem in, reading their paragraph, going into paragraph, whatever they're calling it, 3A. They're asking for an additional 12 months to the 2-year time limit to build a commercial building from the possession date. And then they're also asking for another 3-year extension on top of that. But then you go down to the bottom, paragraph 8, and they're asking for a request for an extension of the existing 3-year period. I thought there was only a 2-year period, which was what it was from the thing. So in other words, what I'm reading here is they're asking for a 27-month extension. Because they're asking for the 3 years plus a 15-month extension. So they're asking for, I'm willing to do an extension maybe for at the very most 1 year, but they're still having to pay the fine. But other than that,
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the fine needs to be paid. But I'm open to the extension for a year.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I am too, because, I mean, if you think about the situation this guy's in, he's had a bit of it's been tough.
Yeah.
And, he's been in business in this town for 50 years, so I'm not sure that I couldn't not give him an extension, I guess is what I'm saying. Yes, pay the fine, the $500 for sure, but, and then I have Councilor Dowsett and Councilor Carey.
And I concur with that statement about what a good business they've run. But I do believe I would be more than willing to give them an extension of not 15 months,
12.
but of 12, only if they pay
Yep.
the fine. So I think that would be the average thought here.
I am exactly the same as what Tom and Mark had said. I'm willing to give him the extension for a year. But he signed a letter, a contract, and he knows that this fine is going to be there. So it's not something he's not knowledgeable of. So I do think that we have to go ahead with the fine, but I'm more than willing, not any other time limit, but the year. Because like you say, the business he's had in town over the 50 years or 40 some years he's been here. It's been remarkable.
I want to just read, he doesn't have a stake in the ground. There's not a thing, but he's gonna be very hard pressed to be able to do 12 months. But by the same token, I'm willing to give that benefit of the doubt based on the fact of
Past history.
yeah, so I'd also like to wonder, I'd also wondering about what Danielle is thinking in regards to this though too, and with the
President?
no, not necessarily the precedent, but
Just with the whole situation.
yeah. Or if you got any,
Sorry, play.
Yeah, what would that?
I amended the resolution to read that council would approve it to June 30th, 2026 with the fine of $500 being paid.
Yes.
If that's the majority, I would change the resolution to read that.
with no extensions.
Councilor Landry.
Is there a deadline for paying the fine?
Immediately.
It would be,
Before June 1st?
yes.
I wanted it in there, so that you can't, it must be paid.
That's good.
correct.
I like that.
And that way we can move on.
Can we,
Is this what you understanding?
I was gonna say, can we somehow safeguard ourselves and put no further extensions
Yes.
to be like this is a,
I agree with that.
this is a one and done.
Yeah.
Like, no going back on this.
Absolutely, I know he's had some rough times and that kind of stuff, but like, I agree, there's not a state, there's nothing
Everybody
around there.
I'm a little slow. Who is Parrot, the one that owns Glendosa?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's who this is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Son is supposed to be taking over.
Joel?
Yeah, Joel.
Oh, he's got Glenn and Joel on that.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is reread the resolution, that's, because it's reworded a bit.
Been reworded, okay?
Okay, so whereas the property owner had submitted a letter to the CO requesting an extension June 30th, 2026. Therefore, be it resolved that the extension request be approved to June 30th, 2026, with the fine of $500 being paid before June 1st, 2025, with no further extension.
Can that last part be reworded slightly? So with the fine of $500 being paid before June 1st, 2025, with no further extensions to the building schedule being permitted in the future.
Well said, lad, well said.
Bring to the bank, boys.
Does he need commercial occupancy as well on that one? Is that what that,
Should be.
but that second part,
But
yeah, valid occupancy must be before. Oh, none of those, okay. Fair enough.
So with no further extensions being approved to the building.
Building timeline.
Building agreement.
Yeah.
That's
I'm sorry, but Mark. Should there also be, like a timeline for like, just because you got stakes in the ground doesn't mean you get to go ahead, by June, 2026, you've got to be, there has to be a completion date?
Well, that's
It's in the contract,
Yeah.
the occupancy
Yes.
has to be
Okay,
by the date.
yeah, I wanted
We're all
to,
doing
that's
is
what you were saying,
extending.
sorry, thank you. Mark.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right, I'll read it one more time.
honest,
Just read it.
Yeah, I'll just read the therefore. Therefore, be it resolved that the extension request be approved to June 30th, 2026, with a fine of $500 being paid before June 1st, 2025, with no further extensions being approved to the building agreement as signed. We're all good with that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the employee assistance program, excuse me, moved by Counselor Landry, second by Counselor Marks. Whereas administration had brought forward to the General Governance Committee the benefits of the town employees having access to an employee assistance program. And whereas the program cost would be less than $2,000 per year for the entire employee complement, therefore be it resolved, the council approved administration's request to enroll in the employee assistance program. Questions or comments? Councilor Marks.
It worked out to $60 per employee, within part of their health benefit package, which we be covering, and it would basically make them eligible for 12 hours of counseling.
And unlimited counseling, should they need it, if they're virtual sessions. And it's counseling of all varieties. So,
Councilor Taylor.
Does this include the fire department?
they have their own,
I know they do, but
Yes.
this is something that's. I'm just wondering if
They
they
should be made aware of it.
Yeah.
Well, the point,
It's very varied because what they go through.
if they go to 10, Gotcha, yeah.
And lots of times it
I'll
doesn't
get
get done
that.
until 2 months afterwards or 3 months.
Any other questions on the resolution?
Bring it to their turn.
Comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, financial matters, bank reconciliation resolution moved by Counselor Dowsett, second by Counselor Taylor. Be resolved that the March 2025 bank reconciliation be approved as presented. Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. General operating, moved by Counselor Landry, second by Counselor Dowsett. Be it resolved that general accounts for the month of March 2025 in the amount of $591,905.87, including the check numbers 5333 through 5429, and March payroll be approved. Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Utility operating, moved by Counselor Dowsett, second by Counselor Landry. Be resolved that utility accounts for the month of March 2025 in the amount of $203,724.70, including the check numbers 1756 through 1809, and March utility payroll be approved. Questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Parks Board financial statement, moved by Counselor Landry, sorry, I thought you put your hand up. Counselor Landry, second by Counselor Taylor. Be resolved that the March 2025 Parks Board bank reconciliation be approved as presented. Question or comments on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Sorry, Mark. I didn't realize you were scratching your cheek. I thought you were putting.
Close enough.
Worked out anyway, really.
Okay, into reports. I do not have a report. Into council reports, Counselor Dowsett.
Have written.
Any questions for Counselor Dowsett? Okay, thank you. Anybody else? That's the written ones, but does somebody, Council Marks?
I'm doing a tour of water plant number 1, Friday morning at 8 AM. If anyone else would like to join.
Tomorrow morning at 8,
Friday morning.
Friday morning. You just showing up there?
Huh?
You're just,
That's a good question. Showing up here or showing up at plant?
At once.
At plant.
Anybody else have anything? Okay. And moving on. Guess that takes us to our in camera. We have a resolution moved by Counselor Dowsett, second by Counselor Landry. Be resolved that this regular meeting now adjourns to an in-camera meeting to discuss matters in the preliminary stages as per subsection 1523B3 of the Municipal Act, and all matters discussed in camera are confidential until discussed in an open meeting as per section 83(1)D of the Municipal Act at 6:18. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so that takes us into other. So the first one, another is electronic funds transfer.
Yes, so we've been receiving notifications from some of our vendors that they will soon be phasing out the checks. By paying by check, that they'll only accept electronic funds transfer, so we spoke to the bank. We can do a 2 signature authorization. For example, right now payroll, Stacy submits it, and then Brittany and I get alerts, and we have to go in and then release it in order for it to be paid. That's new. So what would have to happen if council still wants to be able to sign these checks. Checks, I say, but EFTs, we'd have to give a member of council access to our bank account, which I don't think is appropriate.
I'd be careful with it.
Yeah.
Honest.
I'm sure. My recommendation is for electronic funds transfers that council give the authority for administration to issue by way of to authority. You still see the payments as they go through like general governance, we'll still see them and then they'll come to council. They still go through the process within the office where there is 4 of us that actually review every invoice.
I tend to agree with that. I think that would be the appropriate way to do it. I don't, how does everybody else feel?
I mean, you could have a council sign the invoice before it's.
Actually, that's,
Yeah.
We'd have to make sure that you're in.
Yeah.
Which signing authority, usually
If
works
there's-
pretty quick at getting somebody in. That is an option, yeah, but I'm not comfortable, sorry, council, giving somebody authorization to the bank. I don't even have authorization for banking. So.
I agree. Everybody else? Or different thoughts?
So the notion of a document that some member of council has to sign, that has current signing authority,
Yeah,
has to be done prior to the second party of staff
sign.
logging in and signing off. Yeah, I think that's reasonable,
That's very reasonable.
yeah.
So I will write up a resolution for the next meeting, allowing that for, we'll hold out as long as possible, because I don't personally like doing EFTs. I'd rather write a check.
Okay.
So we'll hold out as long as we possibly can before we have to do that, but I will write a resolution so that we do have it, so we're ready to go. Should that happen,
There's a straight coming.
yes.
Canada Post.
Okay, then the next one under other was flood mitigation ag lands of the town. You want to speak to that or?
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, and that's where you grew up. Right?
Yep.
So what what Bruno has told us, that what we suggested of doing, et cetera, is nonsense. And that we should be acquiring or attempting to acquire land mass to have the water safe. So I'm proposing that, and it would best, you would delegate this or leave it. Have that conversation with the landowners and we get the names of the properties. And just see how they feel about it. It may be surprising to the good and, or it may give us a cost. Right? Either way, we can jump ahead because we're getting resistance right now from doing what we wanted, right? So let's do it the way they want it and let's have this done by the end of June. So that we can actually then start moving on some of the litigation and set up for the fall time. If we're gonna have to clear some land and put some clay down, et cetera, to help with the water, then we can do it before freeze up, right?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm,
You remove it, oh,
we'll go with Council Blay first then.
Oh, I was just, yeah, I'd like to see some progress
Okay.
made on flood mitigation. I know we're gonna wind up with another report that's gonna wind up being shelved and we're gonna wind up spending another, probably at the time, $500,000 to get another report done by somebody else that's gonna come after the next flood that we're gonna have. That's inevitable, and I would just like to see something done. We're still sitting here and now we need engineering drawings of everything and we can't do anything until we've got, and it seems as though it's gonna be, I'll be long gone by the time anything happens.
And you had something that
So I did receive an email from KGS today with their suggestion to do what is being suggested on that property on 9, like
Okay.
Highway 16.
Yeah.
So I have an estimate on that I haven't had a chance to review it yet. Now, when we did talk to the KGS group, we did discuss that because that's where they want to start. That's $700,000 to $800,000.
Where?
On that
South
A
Dakota.
land. So if council
South
wants
Dakota.
us to go ahead, we're
Okay,
gonna need more money.
that's,
well, but we need to know the amount.
That is the amount. They told us that.
For that
We're looking
work,
at
but-
$700,000 to $800,000.
I think what Councilor
Work
Dustin
or
suggested.
Purchasing the land.
Doing the work.
Well, we're not gonna
on
purchase.
the land.
No.
We're
I
gonna
think
have
what,
at least-
I think what Councilor Dustin is referring to is we start the conversation to find out what land we can use and where and
It's in the-
get landowners on site.
No, I know, but we haven't, it's in the report,
Yeah.
but we haven't talked to them, Daniel.
No, we haven't
Right.
discussed.
So
because
that's
it's
what
been
I'm
out
trying
of budget.
to get us at no cost.
To start the
Have a
conversation. with the
And
farmers.
see if it's possible that they're, because to try and take away a couple extra acres that a farmer can use is gonna be very difficult. Right?
It's actually in a water runway.
Yeah,
So
It
it's not-
is,
Yeah, it's
but
not gonna
that-
affect
yeah.
them.
yeah, but we still have to talk to them.
and I think some of that also can be used with the Assiniboine watershed. To help us with that cost. So that's why I'm saying that sticker price of 700,000 is not that shocking. And that it could be part of the Assiniboine watershed to help us.
And if I could make a suggestion, I would gladly be part of trying to talk to these people, but I would like to suggest that we have a conversation with Reeve Dowsett and maybe Deputy Reeve or
Yes,
some of
please.
them. Just because they're pretty good at working with us
Yeah.
and they might be able to go a fair way with helping with their landowners,
Yeah.
their tax base.
But we gotta go into
Yep.
that, right? And I think that this is something we can do ASAP. Right? And then we can fill out how we're gonna do our next.
It's not like it's 10 landowners.
No, it's basically two, yeah. It may be the third one now up to the.
Yeah, depending how far and, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, to me, let's have that conversation, let's sit down, and I was going to also, if you were willing to lead this, say, we should bring in the RM.
Yep.
And have a couple of their representatives, and whoever, I don't know if you want Grant or whoever, but I'd be more than happy to go along.
Okay.
And, we gotta get moving.
Yep.
Right,
no, I agree.
I'll leave it with you.
So we can have the start the conversation anyway.
Excellent, thank you very much, that's what I was. Wanted to, get started.
Okay, anything else under other?
Sorry. Since the financial plan resolution didn't come back to the table, and we do third and final reading of the tax levy bylaw, then we can get that submitted to. the
Right now?
council. Yes,
Yes, please.
I've already updated it, so if you refresh your screens, that way you can,
Oh,
we
good.
can get, this finalized with the province.
Okay, so then we have the tax levy resolution, so moved by Counselor Blais, second by Counselor Marks. Whereas tax levy bylaw number 2615 had been given first and second reading on April 8th, 2025, therefore be it resolved that bylaw number 2615 be read the third and final time.
And in accordance, recorded vote, the last
Yes.
recorded vote.
Yes, a recorded vote will be taken.
Okay, any
Voodoo.
more questions or comments before we vote? All in favor?
Oh,
Put your hand up, Mark. Get your hand up.
Okay,
Opposed? Got it? Carried. Okay, anything else under other? Then we're 8 minutes to hockey, right?
Yes,
So
please.
last resolution, moved by Counselor Dowsett. Second by Counselor Slaves. Be resolved that the meeting be adjourned at 6:54 PM and to meet again on May 27th, 2025. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.